What's up and what's happening, TPE fam? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast, where our aim is to bring you some of the greatest stories, some of the greatest experiences in leadership and in life to help you pivot into your next. This episode is no different. I have had the opportunity to sit down with someone who has a rich military background, has some great perspective on different things in leadership, teaching, and coaching. So I'm excited for you guys to be able to dig into this episode with my special guest, Jimmy Dixon. He is from Beaumont, has traveled the world, seen so many different things, and I am happy to have brought him into our studio on site, and he had an opportunity to share his story, at least a part of it. You guys be on the lookout. I'm sure we're going to get some more recording in. We're going to get some more conversation in, and I'm excited to be able to bring this level of content to you all to help us all pivot into our next. And so without further ado, let's jump into the episode, guys. Let's grow. What's up and what's happening, TPE fam? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience, where we try to help people pivot into the next season in their life. And when we bring on guests and people that we've intersected through this journey that we call life, to try to bring their stories to the forefront to help someone else get better, to learn from their experiences and so forth and so on. And today is no different. I've got a gentleman here that I guess first of all say I was at home and my wife wanted to do some things in our closet, right? I mean, if everybody know us, know that we can kind of be cluttered or we not cluttered, but like we accumulate stuff and we be having stuff, we need some organization, right? And so we called this gentleman over to come take a look at what we had going on. And just long story short, he came in, did a wonderful job in our home, and we extended that relationship beyond our personal lives into our professional lives, where this individual has done work within our design business, my wife's interior design business rather. And I really, got to know him and just to hear his story. And I think he has something to really say that's going to help somebody get to where they need to be. And so I am talking about my good friend, Jimmy Dixon. I want to go ahead and introduce you guys to Jimmy Dixon.
All right. How y'all doing? Well, thank you first of all for inviting me on. It's an honor. Tell you a little bit about myself. Of course, born and raised right here in Beaumont, Texas. Been in the military for 20 plus years. Retired, moved back to Beaumont, started my business, JD's Trusted Hands. Looking at starting a new program called TCAM, Teach, Coach, and Mentor. I spent the last 10 years in the military actually teaching what they call Master Resiliency Training, which is resilience training, more or less, the ability to bounce back from something negative, turn it to something positive. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, so I've heard a couple of things, man. So we talking about nonprofit, which says to me that you got a heart to give back to the community, that you want to do something that serves beyond yourself, number one. And number two, you've served in the military. So first of all, thank you for your contributions in that regard. Most definitely want to make sure we acknowledge that. Also, I know being in the military, there's a lot of different capacities that you can serve. Would you mind kind of just talking through, and I don't know if you said it already, but just kind of maybe giving some detail on what was your life like in the military?
It was different. So to transition from Beaumont to the military was an eye opener. I give an example. When I moved back, it was really when everything opened up for me. My daughter got off the bus and she was walking real fast, and she said, "Dad, they had one white person in the whole school." Right. And so it was a shock because in the military, you have such a diverse group of individuals. It's not just black and white. It's black, white, Hispanic, Asian, a whole plethora of different nationalities and races. So to move back to Beaumont or to leave Beaumont and go there, I had to make adjustments in my lifestyle in order to fit in their environment. And then moving back now, it's like vice versa. My kids have to make adjustments in their lifestyles to move back into this environment. So it was a challenge. It was something different. but for the most part, it was an amazing adventure. I mean, between me and my wife was able to, my oldest daughter was born in Korea, my youngest daughter born in El Paso. We've been pretty much all around the world. So we've seen a lot of different places, met a lot of different people, made adjustments in our life to fit the environments that we were in, made changes in our life to better ourselves in the long run, now and in the future. So it's been an adventure. The military made a difference in me.
Okay. What would you say, like, was your favorite destination? Like, I always wondered, like being real, I really don't talk about this a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Like, when I was in high school, I tested to, I think I got approached in the parking lot. Somebody wanted me to be a Marine or a Navy SEAL.
Right.
Contrary to popular belief, I think I was a little bit more fitter. Everybody was fitter back in high school,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I mean, I tested in, and I thought about going for the prospect of paying for college for sure, but then just to travel the world.
Yeah.
I think I had my older brother's friends. They were in the Air Force, they were in the Navy, and they talk about going to all these places. And I guess just what would you say, if you can remember back, what was that favorite place that you landed in the military, and why?
I would say Korea. Korea, because Korea's a small country. It's South Korea, and it's a very small country, but millions of people are there. But to go there and see their way of living and think about where I come from and my way of living, it's an eye opener. But going to Korea and able to go to the islands around Korea was amazing for me and my wife. And I give you an example, Jeju Island. They have that's my most adventurous place I can say I've ever been to in my life. So we at this island where we flew in, we got in our rental car, got to the hotel, went to the hotel to pay for. I mean, not to pay for, but to check in, and they said, okay, your room is on the 12th floor. So we get in the elevator, we press the number 12, the elevator closes, it opens back up. So I said, okay, hit 12 again, it closes, it opens back up. So I'm like, what's going on? So we hit it again, it closes, it opens back up. So what we do, we go to the front counter, we say, look, that's the only elevator y'all have, because for some reason it's not going up to the 12th floor. The lady say, this is the 12th floor, right? And it was amazing because their hotels were built inside of the mountains. And so in order to go to the beach, you had to go to the first floor, which set down because years ago a volcano erupted. And when it erupted, of course, it kind of pushed half of the shoreline down and out, or some kind of way push it up, vice versa. I don't know. But I know we was on the 12th floor when we should have been on the first floor in my head. But I thought that was amazing because that's something, that we didn't expect. And all of usually when you go to a beach, it's sand, where their beach, it wasn't sand, it was actually rock. But it was like sand, but it was rock that was created from the volcano years ago. So amazing. So I can say that's probably one of the most adventurous places I've been to. And not just that, it was a moment where me and my wife was walking through one of the stores, and these kids, when I walked, they would look. And then they come back around. And I looked at the end of the hall. It's like a whole lot of people. And they looking down the aisle like, who is this guy? And for a minute, I felt famous, because everybody watching me. But then when I walked by one of the Asian people that was there, she said, "Oh, Africa," and it was amazing to me because I think we were probably the only black people on the island, and a lot of them had never seen a black person. So first thing they wanted to do was touch my skin. So to me, that's amazing to be in that environment, outside of Beaumont, where everybody is black. You know what I'm saying? So it was an adventure. I love it.
Cool, man. No, I guess sometimes you never really think about like the geographical differences, even when you just leave, because Beaumont's flat for the most part. Like I never forget, I went to Atlanta. Not even,
yeah. I can imagine that.
I was in Atlanta. We was driving, we was in the Uber, And I'm like, man, now how they building houses on these
See
hills
what I'm
and
saying?
all these slopes
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you go to different when you venture out a little bit, things are different. But to
Something
have an
different,
elevator in
man.
the
On the 12th
mountain,
floor.
that is
Yeah,
crazy, man.
yeah.
That's crazy. So
It's amazing.
I want to get back a little bit to I think in the front end we talked about some nonprofit stuff and
Right.
kind of just if you would, number one, tell us about the nonprofit. I mean, I know you got one that's established, and
Right.
you say you're working on
Well,
something.
well, I can't even say this is established. So here's what I'm doing to get the wheels on the bus to turn. I can tell you a quick story about I would why I started the nonprofit. Why I'm trying to start this nonprofit, more or less, called TCAM, and it all stemmed from a command sergeant major that I had in the military. Now, a lot of people don't know how the structure of the military is, but the command sergeant major is the highest echelon you can be on as far as enlisted side of the military. He's like the epitome of the army. He's the example, right? And so it's my nonprofit started with him getting out. We was in El Paso at Fort Bliss, and usually as a leader, we tend to a lot of leaders tend to look down on their employees or whatnot, or people that's under. Well, with Andre Johnson, that was his name, which was the command sergeant major. We were in the desert. It had just finished raining, so it was real nasty. And to see this leader get out of his truck in a creased uniform and go lay down on the ground, because soldiers, usually at night, they have to guard the perimeter and they have to get in a foxhole, what we call where you dig a hole about so deep and you lay in it with your weapon out, pointed out to see, make sure the enemy don't, come in. And so what he did was, when he got out of his truck, everybody saw him because everybody knew Command Sergeant Major Johnson was on ground. But when he got out, he didn't acknowledge nobody but the soldiers. And he went over to the soldier and he laid down the foxhole with him, and he started asking him questions on, what are you looking at? What is this and what's that? And so when I saw that, it automatically, kind of gave me an idea that, wow, as a leader, to be that involved with your soldiers, or what I'm saying, with your employees, is amazing, right? And that's something that I want to do. However, I see a lot of leaders that don't do that. So with me starting TCAM, Teach, Coach, and Mentor, right, it's mainly for the leaders to kind of develop a concept of, if you're going to be a leader, lead by example. You understand what I'm saying? And that's my whole ordeal. If you're gonna be a leader, lead by example. If I'm gonna get dirty, if I expect my employees to get dirty or do something, then I expect the leader to do the same thing. And so from that, kind of pushed me into starting TCAM, like I said, which is a program designed to teach. It's like a instructor teaching program, a teach the teacher program, right? Do that make sense?
No, I get it. You're the leader's leader. The
Yeah.
coach's coach. Yeah, no, I totally get it, man. No, so that story that you spoke of regarding that what you call him? What was his
Command Sergeant Major.
command sergeant major? Like, is there any other examples other than that one that you saw from him, or did you ever have an opportunity in the military to serve in that same level of capacity?
So yes, sitting in many seats, uh, from anywhere from squad leader to platoon sergeant to first sergeant positions. And I know it's kind of fuzzy, but the whole purpose in the military, once you come in as an E1, is to get promoted to E2. So basically, it's a time frame, and I have to say this in order to get to where I'm going to. It's a time frame. Once you become once you get in the military, they give you so much time to get to the next level, right? And then the next level, and then the next level. So it's a progression. If you during that time don't progress, it's a good chance that they can kick you out, because it's all about progression. So for me, I progressed, right? I was put in the positions that was needed to be put in, and when I was in the positions, I always used Andre Johnson, which was the command sergeant major, as my example, right, to lead. So I give you another example. We were in Iraq, and while we was in Iraq, it was a tasking that came down for the younger soldiers to do something that I know that they've never done, something I've never done, right? And it was I don't want to go into detail of it, but it was something. It was pretty graphic as far as having to clean a vehicle that somebody passed away in, right? And it's different there than here. But given that tasking, I said, "There's nowhere in the world I'm going to push this down to these young soldiers." Right. So what I did, I sat down, we had a class, we talked about it, and I explained to them, we're not in the United States no more. You're going to see something here that you'll never see in your life, number one. But I had to be the example by taking that task and doing that job without putting them in harm's way mentally, right? And the whole while I was talking to them and I was doing this task, I was thinking about Andre Johnson and the way that he would mentor us to be the example, right? So that's one way I was able to mentor my guys. So hopefully when they come up rank, then they would do the same thing. They wouldn't put their soldiers in harm's way or their employees in harm's way. They would be the example.
I think to add to that, I kind of, that's a lot of emotional distress to put a person through, and to you to have the wherewithal. I don't know how long you had to do it. I imagine it had to be done quickly, but to have the wherewithal to shield that person's, like, I mean, I don't know to what level of graphic it was, but if any human remains were there, I would imagine that it had to be in some level of, like, that'll stick with you.
It does.
That would stick with you, that could haunt you, and you having the I guess the again, that's the wherewithal to kind of protect those people, because a lot of times that's not in the manual anywhere.
No, it's not.
Like that's not sure. That's not, there's no that's not a whole lot of, and this is kind of the whole point of this broadcast. The whole point of this podcast is I kind of really talk about certain things that leaders come across and how you handle those situations. Because again, you would never, you were not trained by the book. You were trained by seeing somebody model that behavior.
Exactly.
And so, and a lot of times it's the modeling that's missed for a lot of people to learn the things that they need to learn, because they're not seeing it. And I think a lot of times people don't understand the value in seeing it. Right, I think people are dismissive to that, like, oh, you can read about it. It's one thing to read about it. It's one thing, it's different when you see it, man, yeah, for sure.
It's definitely different.
So how you feeling? You doing all right?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, I see you in your pocket right now. I see you feeling good. You feeling, yeah. So if you will, all right, so we kind of got the background on TCAM and kind of what the spirit of it is. What are the next steps for you in implementation of that? What are you going next with, getting it off the ground? What do if anybody's out there listening that number one believes in what you hear from Mr. Dixon, and maybe just in a short period of time that we've been recording, you feel compelled to want to try to connect and be a part of what's happening. If there's somebody out there listening with that type of ear, what would you tell them in the moment? Not to say this is an elevator pitch or anything like that, but just like, what's the next steps for this?
So I have a saying, you can't expect what you don't inspect. Right.
Yeah.
And so part of that saying kind of segue me back into to TCAM. What I would like for TCAM to do is reach, like I say, I would love for it to be a teach the teacher program, because we have so many, and I'll give you another example. We have so many teachers, right, that are not aware of their how can I say this? We have so many teachers that are going through everyday adversities. I'll put it like that, right? And no one are looking at their struggles, right? Because they're teachers, it's almost being a leader. How they say it get lonely at the top. Well, teachers kind of the same way in every aspect. I'm not talking to school teachers. I'm talking across the board. Any kind of instructor, any kind of teacher, any kind of leader. To me, a teacher is a leader, somebody that lead by example, right? So no one ever sees their struggles. So TCAM, Teach, Coach, and Mentor, is a program designed that's going to teach self-awareness, right? Self-awareness, teach about the biggest thing is resilience, the ability to bounce back from something negative, turn it to something positive, right? I'll give you another example. Teachers in school deal with so many kids and their everyday problems or situations or things that they go through, to no one taking consideration when that teacher get home from school, how is she dealing with that? You understand what I'm saying? So with TCAM, Teach, Coach, and Mentor, I would love for teachers I would love for my program to be able to teach teachers how to deal with the everyday adversities, right? Outside of their everyday adversities that they're dealing with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does, because I think a lot of times people look at you and they identify you have a position, and being a teacher, trainer, coach, any of those titles, I think are their leaders. I think they're kind of synonymous, and I think a lot of times people think that, oh well, you all right because you're the teacher. You're good.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, we're people too,
right?
And I think it's you always need something. There's iron is sharpening iron, basically.
Exactly.
What you're talking about, not to try to take it all the way there, but it's very biblical. I think it stands on that.
Right.
I think it's supported in that. So for sure, man. So no, that's remarkable. So how do you plan on getting this out to people? Have you thought about that?
So yes.
I'm really kind of put you on the spot a little bit. My bad, my man.
No, you're good. So one way is just what we're doing right now, right? Sure. So if I'm gonna speak it into existence, starting a podcast, right? I think we'll raise awareness to any program that's available or that they have out there. I feel other individuals that have the knowledge to run a program are just as afraid as I am now, sitting on the podcast talking into that camera. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the biggest fear. I know it's first time, and I think that's the biggest fear that we have. But starting my podcast and having individuals sit on and talk about certain things like sexual assault, suicide ideation, sexual awareness, having individuals sit and hold them conversations, then that's part of the trainer program. That's part of TCAM, Teach, Coach, and Mentor, right? I want to be able to teach individuals what suicide ideation is, which is the ideal of that individual have before they contemplate suicide, right? As a lot of people don't even know that. But I would love to teach that. I would love for my program to actually have a podcast, because everybody's not leaving out their house going places no more, right? Everybody on them phones. So if I can reach you on this phone in front of, on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, then I'm doing my job. I'm doing if I get one person to respond, to like it, then I'm good. Then I'm satisfied with that. I think that's the biggest thing, running the podcast.
Sure, and we're gonna talk after this. I would like to definitely extend this conversation beyond this episode, because I think you have something to offer. I would like to dig a little deeper into some of those military stories that you got, because I think you got more than what you're telling. Kind of peeling back the onion just ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And I think so I would love to be able to continue this conversation on with you, because I think this is flowing very, very well.
Right.
So all right. So we've talked about your nonprofit. We talked about some time in the military. I want to know. I'm going to go back to the military here. I want to know, when do you feel like a time when your leadership skills were challenged the most?
That's a good question. When was the time that my leadership?
Whether that be in the military or not.
It's a real good question. There was a so with me running this program in the military called Master Resiliency Training, I actually ran the program at Fort Bliss for the installation. I was the first staff sergeant, which in rank you go E1 to E8, E8 the highest. At the time I was at E6, and I was the first staff sergeant to teach at the Sergeant Major's Academy, right? And so I can remember showing up there as to be an instructor or assist with being an instructor. And one of the sergeant majors that was there was like, "Staff, what you need?" I say, "Oh, I'm looking for room such and such." "Okay, well, you need to go down the hall and you make a left and you're going to talk to such and such about this, that, and the other." And I was like, "Roger, sergeant major." And I went down the hall, and I knew I didn't have to go there. I was looking for the room because that was my place of duty. But in the military, what I do know, when you're the instructor, I don't care who's sitting in the class, you're in charge. That's the structure of the military. And so I finally find the room that I need to go to, and who shows up? That sergeant major, that same sergeant major that was talking harsh to me. "Go down there and do that." And he walk in there. He said, "Stop, what you doing here?" I say, "I'm the instructor." He say, "No, ain't nowhere in the world." He said, "Y'all can't teach me nothing." You know, it's like saying a young dog can't teach an old dog new tricks or whatnot, right? Yeah. So for the first time, I could say my leadership style was challenged, because a lot of people don't understand it's not always the position that you sit in, it's the knowledge that you possess.
Yeah.
Right. At any level. And I think that's what separates.
Can I get you to say that again? That was good. I like that. I want you to say all that again, because that might be the front of this.
All right.
That might be the title. I gotta work that out some kind of way. But that was good. Say that again.
So a lot of people don't realize it's not always the position that you sit in, but it's the knowledge that you possess. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a lot of people that sit in these powerful positions, but they lack the knowledge, right, to teach, coach, and mentor across the board. Right. And so with me sitting in this class at the Sergeant Major's Academy, it shocked, first of all, everybody in the room. They actually had to send information to the Pentagon back to Fort Bliss to say, why is a staff sergeant teaching at the Command Sergeant Major's Academy? So it was a challenge to me, because now, it's almost as hard as sitting and talking in front of these cameras. Imagine sitting talking in front of your supervisors, and teaching them at the same rate. I can say when the classes was over, all of them said the same thing. That's the best instructor I ever had. So you can teach an old dog new tricks. So
okay, hey, that's a great story, man. I think one of the things that's been gnawing at my brain, you talk about luck, and I think I've seen something on the internet that said there's no such thing as luck. It's when preparation meets an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's more so what that is, and you've been preparing for this. And one of the things that I've been really kind of talking through, and might make a little content off of it, but it's when you focus on doing the right thing, even though sometimes you don't want to. Some days you get up, you don't feel like doing it. But when you're focused on doing the right thing, because I feel like, again, I try to take it here, but I feel like when, God positions you to say, I need you to do the right thing because you never know, or I need you to be preparing for this because you never know when the opportunity is going to come.
Exactly.
And it sounded like to me that opportunity was at the highest level.
It was.
If this is a school full of these gentlemen that hold this title, and you already preferenced that there was a gentleman who held this title, who you held in very high esteem, and it's still shaping and molding what you're doing to this day. So to be able to have that type of impact on them and be prepared to do it. Some people could have did this and not been prepared for that moment. But you stepped in and you knew what it was that you needed to do, and you were met with adversity doing it. And that's the thing. A lot of people think that the road's going to be silky smooth, and you're just going to slide and glide right into where your highest peak or your highest level of performance. but you were met at the door. What you doing there?
Yeah.
Where you going?
Yeah.
What's happening here?
What you need?
Trash bags over there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Literally.
You know, like,
That's what it was like. Yeah.
and so you know, and then to have the, you know, and you could have got out of character when you seen him. It could have been a little spicy. Well, hey, I'm the instructor, homeboy. What's happening? You know what I'm saying? But you still maintain who you knew you could be, who you knew you should be, and you performed at the highest level. And to get those remarks from that caliber of person, I'm sure had to take your confidence to the next level.
It did.
You know, and that's, I think that's a whole nother lesson. It's like, you know, you are rewarded in that, and when you are preparation is rewarded with that level of acknowledgement. So yeah, man, that's fantastic.
So I tell you something else that motivated me. Andre Johnson, he passed, but it's the way that he passed what motivated me to actually walk into Sergeant Major's Academy and look at everybody as if I'm in charge, regardless. Because in the military, it's different levels. So you have a company level, which you may have 250 people, right? You have a battalion level where you might have 2,500 people. And then you have brigade level where you have over 5,000 people at brigade level, right? And so at each level, you have a command sergeant major. Andre Johnson sit in the battalion level command sergeant major. So at any time, he had access to over 3,000 people, I would say, right? That's who he commanded, over 3,000, 2,500, 3,000 people. Well, he walks into my office and everybody like, Sergeant Major here, Sergeant Major. And they start cleaning up and getting everything together. Sergeant Major here. And he walks into my office and he closes the door and he sits down. Now, at the time, I'm the brigade master resilience trainer. I'm at a high echelon as far as my training goes. I'm not battalion. I'm at the brigade master resilience trainer, which means every battalion had a instructor that worked for me, right? And then every company had an individual that worked for them. So he walks in my office and closes the door. And I'm so eager to show him, you know, what I have, because that's the epitome. He the man. Let me show you what I did, Sergeant Major. Here's my books, and I got this, and I got that. Let me show you how this, and all. And so this is all this, and he like, yeah, that's good, that's good, that's good. And I never once paid attention to him because I was so engaged in showing him how well I've been doing as far as my job go. And so he gets up, he say, Sergeant Dixon, thank you, man. He said, I appreciate it. He said, you enjoy yourself. You have a good day. And that night, he committed suicide. And so it stuck with me that no matter what level you are at, no matter how high you are, as far as supervisors, as far as leadership, you could do that. It could happen. But I was so naive and so stubborn at focusing on, look what I got, till I forgot my job. And my job was the master resiliency trainer. To bounce back from something negative turn to something positive. Let me give you these good skills. That's my job. To have listening skills. So when somebody talking to me, to hear them out, to be able to give them the advice that they need. You know, self-awareness. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you looked at this? To know the suicide ideation. I didn't grab none of that. I was self-indulged at the time. Right? And to this day, it bothers me, but it makes me, because now I'm a good listener. Now TCAM. You see what I'm saying? It's going to be able to give back to them leaders that nobody's listening to. That's the whole purpose of the program. So that's my motivation for walking in the Sergeant Major's Academy and telling everybody to sit down. I'm in charge.
Because you had a glimpse of what they could be really going through.
Bingo.
And I think, you know, a lot of times, man, I think all of us probably fall in that category. And thankfully, the person who was on the other end of that wasn't at that, you know, may have not been at that point of idea or whatever. Man, that's I can understand how it would fuel your passion and fuel your drive for just wanting to be Don't want to let the interaction go to waste, especially considering, you saw the full spectrum of it. You saw how much he poured into other people.
Man.
And then, in your mind, it's like, well, the result of this, the catalyst for this incident is he was pouring out who was pouring into him.
That's right.
And I think particularly, like, and I don't know where this lands with you, and I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I think particularly when you're a man in a position, when you're tasked to lead other men or tasked to lead other women or whatever, and you're looked at to have the highest level of authority. You're looked at to have the highest level of skill, the highest level of knowledge, the highest level of accountability.
Right.
A lot of times, man, that gets tough.
It does.
And I would, man, again, in my some of my reflection time today, I was thinking about, the Bible says, "Don't be weary in well doing." Why did God put that there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if it's well doing, why would He say, "Don't be weary in well doing"? And so it's one of those things where I think God knows that, hey man, this form can get tired of prioritizing the well-being of others over themselves, and it can be taxing. And it sounds like to me, maybe, when we don't look out for each other in that regard, and we don't see the signs, because everybody's, a pot bubbles before,
exactly. It's going to always be telltale signs,
and so, I'm excited to see what TCAM is going to do for the individuals who are consistently pouring out, and how can they continue to take care of themselves, and then watch out for other people that's in the, because typically if you're a teacher, you know other teachers. If you're a leader, you know other leaders. And so if you have the opportunity to impact one, you might have the opportunity to impact 5 or 6, that's in that teacher circle. So that's incredible, man. So I think I kind of know what the long-term implications of this nonprofit, but, I guess what is a big, in my world, we got these things called BHAG goals. And I know I didn't really put this on our list.
I got
you. I be kind of,
you already hit me, so I'm shooting from the hip.
No, hey man, but let me tell you, this has been incredible. I really have enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot.
Right.
I can't take for granted, just on a fundamental level of how things operate. You hear all these words, these military words, and we pretend to know what they mean, but I think you've given some insight into that for me, so I appreciate that. And then just some more insight into just that life. You understand it's a massive sacrifice in what you're doing when you sign up to do that, but also just what, other than the sacrifice in time, what else comes with it, so this has been incredible for that. But BHAG goals, big, hairy, audacious goals, right? Like pie in the sky, big time, like the most amount of impact that you want to create. What's the biggest long-term goal that you have for TCAM? Like what do you want to see?
It's a very good question. I would
nothing's off the table.
I got you. Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
So my vision, right, is for not BISD, my vision is for the Golden Triangle school districts, right? Because I feel like if I can capture the teachers, then we can expand out to businesses and capture them and teaching them different goal setting skills and to better themselves, to teach them the self-awareness skills to better their businesses and themselves, to teach them leadership skills, right? That everybody could evolve. I think I sent you a list of different questions that I wanted to ask. One of them is the leadership. My leadership style may be different than your leadership style. My leadership definition may be different than your leadership definition. But if we can get everybody on the same definition of leadership, and I say that because that's what the Army did, right? The definition in the Army of leadership is the ability to influence, motivate by using purpose and direction, right? And so if we can get everybody on the same page of leadership definition, and being a certain type of leader, then I think we all win. And I think that's where TCAM come in at. So my vision is not just for the Beaumont School District, but Orange, Vida. I'm talking the Golden Triangle, to actually reach out to all of these different districts and get these teachers the training that they need, right? The skills that they need to better themselves, and of course the environment.
Man, that would be incredible if we could get a unified version or idea around what it means to lead, what it means to be a leader. I think that we can all benefit from having that baseline, and really just if we just take hold of the spirit of that,
Right.
And take pieces of that with us every day. I think a lot of times people want to get exponentially better overnight, and it's like you should just focus on getting 1% better.
That's it.
If you just get 1% better,
Yeah.
So if we can agree on what that definition is and we apply it for the effect to try to get 1% better, everybody wins.
So I think the plan is, because there's so many different leadership styles, there's so many different definitions. I think the definition has to be defined for the area that you're in. And here's why I say that. It's almost like being in New York versus being in the South. I'll give you an example. In New York, if you hold a door open for somebody, they get upset. I don't know if you know this or not.
Man,
because they say it's nothing wrong with my hands.
The funny thing that you say is I've seen this 2 times.
Yeah.
That exact example.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Somebody said something like they from the South and they moved up Northeast, and they, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And holding the door. And
they don't do that. No, ain't nothing wrong with my hands. I can hold the door myself.
Yeah.
That's why they call it Southern hospitality, because that's what we do down South.
Yeah.
Up North, no, ain't nothing wrong with my hand. I don't need you to hold the door for me. Don't ask me how I'm doing. On none of that. Keep that stuff down South.
Yeah.
But when you think about the definition of the, or how they react up North and how we react down South, it puts in my mind that we need to come up with our own definition of what leadership is. And if we all can abide by that rule of leadership, then we grow. The Army has grown tremendously based off of motivation, direction, and purpose. That's it. That's their values. And I think that's something Beaumont don't have. We don't have values when it comes to leadership. And that's something we need to incorporate across the board.
Yeah. No, that's good. No, hey, look, I love it. Everybody who tunes into this broadcast, for me, is all about trying to help people get better.
Right.
This is the whole purpose of this conversation. I knew that you were a ball of fire. You just didn't realize it yet. You just didn't know it. But I think that you're hitting the nail around the head.
Yeah.
I think you're doing, and we haven't even talked about none of that. None of the contracts. So we got plenty more tread left on this tire that I'm excited to be able to explore. But I got one more question for you before we wrap up here.
Okay.
Because I think we can go for another 40 minutes.
I know I can.
I
love it.
No.
Yeah,
You got comfortable now.
I did.
But you got comfortable now. You see what we did? I wanted to, I'm trying to get better as a podcast host, trying to get my questions good.
Yeah.
And I saw the moment when you start talking about that elevator.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, he in his bag. We get to go now. But if you can go back in time and think about what you know now, what you learn now, what you gain now, other than I know that one moment you expressed earlier, but what bit of advice would you go back and give yourself, as a young man trying to, whether that's graduating high school or whatever stage you want to pick, what advice would you give yourself in that moment?
I would say the advice I would give myself is to take the hard left over the easy right.
Come on.
And here's why I say that.
Come on.
Because as a younger person,
golly, that's a graphic. Go ahead.
So as a younger person, we all, and even as an older person, we all look for the hookup.
Yeah.
And when we're younger, we want to know the answer to the test.
Yeah.
If I can go back in the time and tell myself, I'm putting like I spent more time searching for the hookup for the answer to the test, and all I had to do was read
Word.
and gain the knowledge. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So if I could have made that easy left, it's that hard left, I'm sorry, over that easy right, then the knowledge would set in a whole lot sooner in my life, and I'll be a better person. I'm good. I love myself right now. Don't get me wrong. I'm good.
Yeah.
But I will be a whole different person
Right.
if I would have took that hard left.
Yeah. That I like that. I'm about to incorporate that when I'm talking to some people. I'm pivoting into my next with what is it? Take the hard left, not the easy right.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I like that. Well, TPE family, I hope you have gained something from Mr. Jimmy Dixon. I know I have. I know I've had that. My mind's been blown just over some of the experiences that this individual has had, that this young man has had. And I'm excited about the journey of TCAM. I'm excited about the journey and the impact that he's going to have on other teachers, other leaders. I'm excited about the impact that he's going to have on you guys listening to this broadcast. I truly believe that there was some great things shared, some wisdom shared. The invitation is wide open, my man, for you to come back to this couch. I definitely want to see you come back here. Whether it's this is the let's get a couple episodes in, so you ready to go out on your own. I think you ready to get out on your own. Nah, you gotta get out your own way. You gotta get out your way, my man, because I think you just I think you brought the building down today, man. I definitely appreciate your transparency. I appreciate you opening up for the audience, for somebody to get better. Because I really know that if y'all were listening to the things that he was saying, there's a lot of different pain points that he touched on that I think people are going through some things, and we can definitely help. So where can they find you? I know we didn't talk about that in the beginning. If there's a place to find you, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you good. So,
but how does somebody get in contact with you?
Well, my phone number all over my truck and trailer right around Beaumont. Through my business, I'm on Facebook. If you look up JD Trusted Hands, which is another program that I have, which if I can speak on that real quick,
go ahead.
Which I get with young men and women, and I teach them the skill of carpentry, right? But not just teach them the skill of carpentry. When you get hired on with me, I want to know where you're going to be at the next 5 years, right? And so in 5 years, my training at the military has given me the last 15 years, part of it has been goal setting. So what I do with the young men and women, if they tell me in 5 years this is where they want to be at, then I do backwards planning. I say, okay, well, in 4 years, you have to have this accomplished. In 3 years, you have to be here. In a year, you have to have this accomplished. In 6 months, you need to be here. So tomorrow, in 3 months, you need to be here. So tomorrow, guess what you need to start, right? So, and I believe in when you write it out, right, it's more personal, right? And a lot of people don't get that, but it's almost, and I always talk about this, it's almost like somebody when you're younger and they give you, they tell you they like you, right? And they say, oh, I like it. And you're like, okay, that's nice. But when they come by you and they put a note in your hand, and when you get to class and you open that note up, you're like, oh, they like me. Then it's different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's more personal.
I ain't never heard it.
So it's the same rate.
That's tough.
It's the same rate when you writing your goals out. So when I hire these young men and women, I want them to write it out. I want it to be personal. I want to give them something to look forward to, right? Because a person without purpose, right, don't have anything to motivate them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's my whole goal, to make sure that they have a purpose and a direction to keep them motivated. So when they get up in the morning, they say, I got a purpose. I'm motivated. I need to go and get it.
Yes, sir.
And that's the whole purpose of it. So through JD's Trusted Hands, which once again, I hire them, do the goal setting for them. And once they tell me where they want to be at, let them go into the world, enjoy themselves, right? But my phone number, I don't mind giving it out, is 409-791-9722. Like I said, it's posted all over my trucks and trailer around Beaumont. You can reach me at JD Trusted Hands Home Improvements on Facebook also.
Well, there y'all have it, man. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode as much as I have. I don't take for granted sitting in this seat, sitting across from somebody who has had so much experience. So I just want to say thank you so
Thank
much
you for having
for coming through. This is first podcast.
very first.
Y'all would never have known that this was his first one. 'Cause
Very first.
I think he
Yeah.
I'm not gonna use it. He did a good job.
Thank you.
You did an awesome job, man. But until next time, TPE family, peace.
Peace out.